Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Freres Heureux. You are here with Fraser.
And Ewan.
Yes, you are indeed. And we're on to season 7 of our grand rewatch of Frasier.
Where does the time go?
Where does it go? That's well over halfway.
Mm-hmm.
On to some of the, well, maybe not some of the best, some of my favourite episodes this season. I do like season 7. I've been looking forward to it. I think we said a couple of weeks back that this is the season where I start to remember the ones that I started to watch as a child.
Yeah.
This was when I first started to see the episodes that I was like, I remember seeing you on TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, it holds a special place in my heart. We have some exciting news on the podcast front. Well, depending on your view of it, we find it quite exciting.
I think it's exciting.
The podcast has reached enough monthly listeners, despite only having been around for a handful of months, that we can start to monetize, which means adverts, which are not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
So, having chatted it over and had the discussion on how we want to proceed with that, we've decided that we will not be including adverts on episodes of the podcast. I think we have said before, we said near the start that we wanted to keep it ad free.
Yeah.
That this is a hobby for us. It's a not fan project. What's the word?
I don't know.
Pet project.
Yeah.
Pet project. That's what I was thinking of. And we're doing it because we enjoy it. So we don't want to interrupt the episodes with things that may reduce listenership. Basically, we want you guys to enjoy it as well. And if adverts would risk that, we would rather not do them at all. To be perfectly honest. However, because we were at that stage where we obviously have you lovely people tuning in week after week, we would like to open up a Ko-Fi, as many other creators do, and that sort of gives you the opportunity, if you would like to donate a few pennies here and there to help the cost of the podcast, because unfortunately it does cost money every month to keep the podcast going and for server space and whatnot, and equipment and everything. If you would like to drop a little tip in here or there, then you're free to do so, and that kind of puts the onus on you lovely people as to whether you would like to or not, and that means we're not forcing adverts onto you. It's your decision as to whether the podcast is monetized or not, I suppose. So I want to make clear that there's absolutely no obligation to do so. We are quite happy to continue as we are going, making absolutely no money from this podcast and just doing it completely for fun and because we enjoy it and because hopefully you enjoy it as well. But the option is now there. If you would like to contribute to the cost of running the podcast, and it would be very much appreciated. Yeah, we would show our appreciation. Probably at the end of the YouTube videos, we'll leave a note of anyone and everyone who has donated, and potentially, some other bonuses, I guess, as well. I don't think it would be anything that people would miss out on. But, there's an opportunity on Ko-Fi for leaving questions and notes and everything for us that we could maybe read out on the show and answer your questions or your comments or anything like that, which we would love to do. And to be fair,
let us know if you have any other ideas of things that we can be providing in exchange for.
Exactly. I think the issue, when we spoke over it, we thought about something like a Patreon.
Yeah.
And the issue that we have with a Patreon is that we kind of, the two of us are working full time at the moment, so our our time in recording these episodes is limited as it is.
Yeah.
So doing sort of bonus content or behind the scenes just chips away at more of our free time and makes it more difficult. So I don't think we would be able to provide enough consistent bonus content to justify it.
Yeah.
So I'd feel bad sort of opening it up and then not doing anything with it. So I think hopefully everyone will agree this is a sort of good compromise all round for everyone, that there is now an option there, but there's no obligation, and we keep the show ad free.
Yeah.
For now. Things might change. Maybe we get super popular and we need to monetize because the server costs just go psh.
Yeah.
I made a gesture with my hand pointing up to the sky.
Yeah.
Maybe we need cameras. Maybe we need some money for cameras so we can
get really fancy with the setup.
Yeah.
And,
who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things. If we reach the point where we're getting money, I mean, I'm very aware that this is not going to happen, but hypothetically, if we were to reach the point that one or both of us didn't have to work, if we were getting income, then we would be free to produce a lot more content. We could be putting stuff out, exclusive things, completely new podcasts, whatever. I mean, if that does ever happen, which is unlikely, it's definitely not going to happen anytime soon.
No, probably not. But, we've got some ideas in the bank and we want to keep this sort of format going. Two brothers chatting over shows, movies that we love. So when we do finally reach the end of Frasier, there may be other opportunities for us. Who knows? Who knows? We know because we've spoken about it.
Yeah.
Right, on with the show. I have rambled enough. I don't think there's anything else I need to go over.
Nope.
Other than a big thank you to everyone who is listening.
Yeah.
To be fair, because the numbers that we're reaching at the moment are a lot higher than I ever thought we would.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
That we would ever reach.
We just hit 4,000 total, which is exciting.
Well, 4,000 on the podcast.
4,000
if we factor in YouTube listens as well, it's almost double that. Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for putting up with us all this time.
Yeah.
But we will carry on regardless. Even if we were getting one listener out there, we would stick it out. Well, maybe not. I don't know. That would be pretty disheartening.
Yeah, maybe a little.
I don't know. I'd do it. I'd stick it out for that
one person.
One guy. Yeah. But we do it for all of you.
Yeah.
I'm also still rambling because it's, again, so hot in this room. Momma Mia.
Mamma Mia, it's hot in here.
Here we go again.
Oh, Mamma Mia.
That is actually the name of the first episode on the disc.
It sure is.
The first disc of season 7. And unsurprisingly, it ties into the episode with both a Mama and a Mia.
Yep.
Mia Preston is a children's book author whom Frasier bumps into at Cafe Nervosa and is immediately smitten by. He can't quite pinpoint why he finds her so attractive, but he kind of persuades her to go out for lunch or coffee. He's a little bit more pushy than I would generally like, but she seems kind of sweet on him, and I think that's why he keeps going. And the two of them start dating. And as she's introduced to the rest of the family, Niles realizes that there is a distinct likeness to their mother.
Yeah.
In Mia. Which is a little bit of a weird premise for an episode of a show.
It is weird. It is very strange. Yeah.
Yeah. Frasier doesn't initially see it. Niles sees it immediately. Daphne as well, obviously only from photos. She never met her in person, but also admits that she sees it. And then when the two boys and Martin go out for Martin's birthday up to the log cabin that they used to stay at as kids. Martin sees it as well. Mia tags along, which that never sits right with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the three lads. It's the three Crane boys.
Yeah,
going out for his birthday.
Yeah, I don't really know why he would have.
Frasier's just like, I'm bringing my brand new girlfriend with me. I'm like, okay. Whatever. Maybe Martin's cool with it. He just wants to go and have a chill weekend anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he sees it immediately as well. She walks in the door and makes this great comment like, oh, it's so beautiful up here in the wilderness. I feel like I'm in heaven. And Martin turns around like, yeah, I kind of feel like that as well.
Yeah.
Doesn't really know how to respond to it. But as the evening goes on, it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And it's really quite uncomfortable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The comments that she makes are very like maternal, I guess.
Yeah, the way that she talks to Frasier, it's very reminiscent of how a mother would talk to a child, which is really gross, I think, generally. I mean, even if you're ignoring how similar they look, how Mia looks like Hester, even completely ignoring that, the idea of people who are like taking on kind of parental roles in their romantic relationships, it's really gross. And some people think it's fine and normal, and it's really not.
It's a little bit strange. Yeah, definitely.
I try not to be judgmental about other people's personal lives, but that's weird.
It's kind of more the idea that in these situations, it's like a mother and a child, rather than just, there are people out there, so I am told anyway, that have mummy kinks or daddy kinks, and it's like, I guess if you're an adult and treated like an adult, that's kind of your business. But when you're treating your partner like a child, it's like, oh, you want to be in a relationship with a child. That's a bit weird. Don't like that. And that's kind of how it seems here, is she treats him very... It's not condescending because, it kind of is. I guess. But almost like subconsciously condescending. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The way that she treats him is just like she's caring for a child. Yeah. And he doesn't notice it or seem to care. And it's... Yeah, bit gross. Yeah. Bit gross, bit weird. Especially when Frasier finally finds out. They watch some old movies that Frasier and Niles have had converted to VHS. Yeah. Converted to VHS.
I do always find that really funny, how like this modern upgrade to a now completely redundant type of media,
of all their home movies, and they sit down and watch them together, and they see Hester, and they see them as a family when they were all younger. And Frasier notices it and understandably has a bit of a panic attack, having finally seen it. And he tries to look past it. And to be fair to him, he does like immediately come clean to Mia and sort of explain the situation and why he's being a bit weird. Yeah. And they both try and move past it until she disrobes in front of him. Yeah. And it's too much for him. Which, to be fair, I wouldn't want to be in his position. I think that would be too much. Yeah. I'd hope I'd have a little bit more self-awareness. Yeah. Frasier's very oblivious throughout this whole episode. And the kind of half of the joke is that he's also slagging off Niles. Like Niles, or I don't know, it's weird because Niles clearly does have like a bug phobia. Yeah. But he kind of claims that it's just a phobia and it's not anything worse.
It's not,
like a neuroses or whatever you would call it.
It's clearly a very extreme phobia of bugs. Yeah. To be fair, I hate bugs.
I mean, me too, but not to that degree.
Maybe not quite that extent. With a valise full of bug repellent.
Yeah. So it's, Frasier's kind of teasing him almost for that and saying he's oblivious. You can't be a good psychiatrist if you're so oblivious to your own issues.
Yeah.
So Niles is pretty annoyed about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's... Yeah, I don't know that I disagree. I wouldn't want a psychiatrist that's as neurotic as Niles.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, well, you can't deal with your own issues.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I trust you to deal with mine?
Yeah.
Frasier to a less extent, because I think that's just... This is one thing that he's just happened to miss, I guess. Obviously, it's a big thing.
It is a very big thing.
And you would think that you would notice, but it's not consistent either. It's like once he figures it out, he is aware of it and acknowledges it. Whereas Niles he's always been a germaphobe and very careful with his wiping down his seats and scared of bugs and everything, and he never really acknowledges how serious it is. So I think there is a bit of a difference there. But
Yeah. How do you feel about the episode on a whole?
On a whole, I quite like it, actually. I think it is quite funny.
Yeah.
If you look past the strangeness surrounding it. I think it's Rita Wilson plays Mia, and I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
I think she's such a good guest star. We actually have a flashback in a few seasons' time of Frasier's mum.
Yeah.
And again, is played by Rita Wilson. So I kind of have this soft spot for her, that she appears here and then she returns as a completely different character.
Yeah.
She was that good. I don't know. I really like that.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of enjoyable to watch, making all the sort of double entendres when they're having dinner and things like that. It's just it's very funny, just how oblivious they all are to the situation, even if it is a bit weird.
Yeah, there's definitely
funny.
The opportunity for a lot of really funny jokes. I really like Niles kind of trying to get Frasier to realize what's going on, but without saying it outright. And he's kind of he keeps mentioning, he's like, oh, with Mia, clearly you've hit the mother load. Yeah. And then like, oh, mum's the word. And then like Martin knocks water onto his trousers to try and get him into the other room to tell him off. And then as he's walking out of the room, he says like, oh, well, I hope I won't have to get these trousers repressed. And it's just the jokes like that are very well written.
They are. They're very clever.
I think this is a good example of Frasier's quite intelligent humor, even down to Niles's Latin pun that he scrawled on the floorboards.
Semper ubi sub ubi.
Yeah.
I want that tattooed, man.
That would be a good tattoo.
So
actually.
Funny. Always where underwear. But I think even though it's quite a funny episode, I love how touching the end is as well. After Mia leaves, the disrobing instant was too much for Frasier, and she decides to get a taxi back. She leaves, and the three Crane boys sit around the TV, and they just sit and watch the home movies. And it sort of ends on a shot of their mum, of Hester, and Martin just kind of he's kind of leaning on his cane, and he kind of sits and rests his head, just thinking about her and just remembering her, and it's just really sweet. It doesn't end on a silly joke or anything. It just ends on this really sweet moment of the three of them remembering their mum / wife. So I kind of like how it all ties together. Yeah,
after Niles spends the whole episode going on about how it's a whole edible thing. Edible. He kind of goes on, it's like, oh, this psychiatric issues and this and that, and it's all, Freudian and whatever. They're talking about it at the end, and Martin, in his usual way, just says like, it's not that complicated, you just miss your mother. Like, we all do. It's not some big weird thing, there's nothing wrong with you, it's just you miss your mother. It's natural. you're taking this opportunity to feel like you could be with her again. And I really like that. I think it's just a really sweet little moment. And
think about the end of season 6 when they're sitting at the bar, and the two Frasier and Niles again are chatting about how, you know, they always mess up their relationships and they're overthinking everything and they want to go into analysis and blah 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 blah. And Martin kind of sets them straight and just says, like, look, just stop overthinking things. Just enjoy what you've got in front of you and don't overcomplicate it all. And he's just he's just so grounded in his assessment of these situations. I love it. Yeah, I love John Mahoney's performance in bits like this. It's just so great. Amazing. Even just like the subtle, just him leaning on his cane. It's so subtle, but it says so much, and it's just really lovely to watch. Yeah. How did you rank it? Is the real question.
So I really am quite fond of this episode. I actually wound up giving it a higher rating than I thought I was going to, because I thought of giving it a 3 when I was originally writing my notes, and then I thought, no, you know what, it does deserve a 4. It is a solid episode. I don't know if I'd rate it quite as high as some others, but I think it's got a great balance of a lot of good humor and very well written dialogue, and the nice kind of like emotional aspect. That's something that I always really enjoy. I've gone on about it in plenty of older episodes, where it's like, I really like episodes that can strike that balance, where it's like just the nice family moments, but also they're not sacrificing the humor. It's still really funny.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it a 4 as well, mostly for the same reasons. Yeah, it's just it is this good balance, which is honestly what makes a Frasier episode so good.
Yeah.
But I will say as well, I think it's one of the best openers to a season. I think season openers have this curse of being on the weaker side, I think.
Yeah.
But Mamma Mia does really well. And I think it, definitely stands out to me as one of the better ones. Good.
Yeah.
Kicking off the season with a banger.
Not a bad start.
Yeah. Moving on to episode 2, Father of the Bride. I think takes a little bit of a dip in quality.
Yeah.
We can discuss how much of a dip in a little while. But it's quite a simple premise and I think quite a boring episode, honestly. Not a whole lot happens. It's quite a Daphne-centric episode, which we've not had for a wee while.
Yeah.
She's starting to plan her and Donnie's wedding after the proposal at the end of season 6. And she's struggling to get what she wants because her mum is guilt-tripping her, basically, into having the wedding in England, having the food that she wants, having the decor that she wants, and Daphne just wants sort of a nice simple wedding in America with her friends. And after a bit of jerky gone bad, Frasier hiccups his way through a conversation and accidentally offers to pay for the whole wedding, which he just needs to set it straight, and he almost does, to be fair, until Daphne turns around and says, like, oh, you've made me so happy, I can have the wedding I want now, and blah, blah, blah. He still should have just been like, hold on. Sorry about that. But you wouldn't have a plot without Frasier refusing to just tell the truth.
Yeah.
So eventually, after Daphne makes some, and to be fair, even by my standards, questionable choices for her wedding, just wants to go to like a whale-themed restaurant down by the dock.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like a nice seafood restaurant with a view of the ocean, but you have to walk in through a giant whale's mouth.
Yeah.
That just sounds like that's the restaurant's problem, to be honest. That's just a bad move on the restaurant.
It does.
Part.
It sounds pretty tacky, though. I'm not sure I would want that. But, anyway, so Frasier decides to kind of take over the wedding planning, and he really does take over. You know, like he does exactly what Daphne's mother was doing, and just guilt trips her when she tries to tell him off about it, and it just leads to this confrontation where Daphne finally tells him where to go, and quite right too, because he was being a right ass. It's really, I don't know, there's something about it that's just so dull and uninteresting.
Yeah.
Like we've had dinner party where it's Frasier and Niles planning a dinner party, and the whole episode is just packed full of humor and the decisions that we need to make when we're planning a party and how everything goes wrong and blah blah blah, and it's so funny and well written. And then we have this where all of the jokes around the planning of the wedding are so cheap. It's kind of, they're all at the expense of Daphne, and at the expense of her quote unquote poor taste compared to Frasier's. And it just, we've seen what can be when we have like a planning episode, when we have all these like suggestions being thrown around and sarcastic comments. So when we get this, it just feels really disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, the plots of all the various cursed dinner parties and all the things going wrong, it's, easily could factor in here, but then it doesn't. It just kind of, yeah, the main plot isn't super interesting. I don't particularly enjoy it. It has a handful of good jokes, I think. I
like the harp joke. I think that's really funny. I think that's really clever.
Definitely more of a kind of meta fourth humor, wall break kind of joke. But Martin saying, "Oh, it was." I think if it was just yesterday, and then you hear the harp as if he's having a flashback.
Harpist.
Yeah,
is that what they're called? Yeah,
I guess so.
I think that, and that's kind of one of the very rare times, if any. Well, no, I can think of one other in My Coffee with Niles. When David Hyde Pierce looks into the camera. But other than that, I can't think of any other like meta fourth wall breakers.
There's a joke in the with Nanny G. They make a joke about how she's been playing the same character for 20 years, and then Frasier kind of has a look on his face.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, like three.
It's very rare.
Maybe more kind of subtle kind of references like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main plot I'm not super into. The B plot I think is a lot funnier.
Do you?
I think so. I think it's really funny. There's at least a lot of good jokes. So we get the setup when Donnie first shows up. They're talking about Donnie's a traditionalist. He's not going to let us pay for the wedding. This is our way out. He's going to come in and whatever. And then as soon as they open the door, Donnie's on the phone with a client and he says, "Any idiot knows you have to pay a hooker in cash." And I think that's really funny. Donnie is just such a wonderful character, and he's so funny coming in like that. But anyway, he starts talking about how he has heard of Executive Match, which is an escort service. And then shortly after, we find out that Niles has started using Executive Match, thinking that it is a dating service for busy professionals. And starts going on a date with a woman and that he thinks is a lawyer, and I think it's funny. I think there's quite a lot of good jokes there. The kind of he doesn't realize what's going on, and there's so many kind of obvious hints, and he's like taking her out on dates and like kissing her hand, and they've not slept together, and she's just like raking in all this money, and it's like, we're going bird watching for 4 hours, and she's like, "Oh great, nice, easy bit of cash," you know.
See, I don't like that.
No,
I really don't. And rewatching it, I was kind of a bit disappointed actually. First of all, I find it pretty inconsequential, like the whole thing. I think there's not really any tie-in to the main plot. It's just kind of this little side venture that Niles has been on, and I don't find it particularly funny, so it's just kind of there and then it's gone, and there's no real lasting effect or any kind of humor that leaves me wishing we'd had more of it, you know?
Yeah.
But also kind of the way that they treat the escort, the sex worker, I guess, arguably. Maybe just an escort.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I think all the jokes are very much at the expense of sex workers.
Yeah.
You know, calling her a hooker or a whore or whatever.
Yeah.
Joking about how she's always watching her
Mm-hmm.
watching the clock.
Yeah.
And just kind of taking him for a chump. I think it's a bit degrading, almost.
Some of the language they use is definitely a bit questionable,
and I know it is dated, and it's not. It wouldn't necessarily be quite as bad these days, but I think you can do it a lot better. There is an episode, I think it is this season. It is this season later on, where we have another different kind of sex worker as a side character, as a guest, and I think they're played a lot better. I think it's arguably a lot funnier, but also they're treated like a human being and not, you know, a whore as as even like Niles says, like, oh my god, I'm dating a whore. It's kind of like
yeah.
So I think it's maybe a sort of generational thing, I guess, that it's the modern generation is a bit more accepting and defensive around these things. So maybe that's on me being overly sensitive about it, but just watching it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, apologies. I do not agree with you on that. I don't.
It's fine. We're allowed to disagree. Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. I think compared to how they could have gone with that kind of story and that, I don't think it's necessarily as negative. I don't think it's that bad. I think some of the jokes are quite good. I think I see the jokes that are more at the expense of Niles being ignorant to
being
it,
oblivious, yeah,
rather than
that's fair.
Jokes kind of at her expense.
That's
Sabrina's expense.
That's fair.
Yeah. So overall, I give it a 3.
A 3
because I think it's
okay.
Pretty plain. It's not great. Yeah, the main plot brings it down, but then I think the B plot kind of brings it back up again a little bit.
Fair enough. I only gave it a 2. I think it's more. It's got a couple of moments. It's got a couple of moments of humor, and I don't think overall it's justifying of a 1. I think that's too low. Even though it is a bit boring, it's not an actively bad episode.
Yeah.
It's just a bit dull. So yeah, I think that would be a bit unfair to mark it right the way down, but I couldn't give it more than a 2. It's just, it's not for me. Not for me.
Fair enough.
The next episode, however, far more keen on. And I should say, I've specifically not said anything about guest stars because I know there are none.
Yeah.
This whole disc.
Yeah, there aren't any.
There are no guest stars. Well, guest callers, I guess. Which is a shame, but makes your life a bit easier.
Yeah.
Don't need to bother about it at the end of each episode.
I do look up the kind of minor characters on IMDb to see if I recognize them from other things, and I never do.
Yeah.
The actress that played Sabrina was in like 2 or 3 other things. I think she was better known as I think she was a model,
right?
More than an actress, if I remember correctly from what I saw.
Yeah. Okay then. Radio Wars. Now, there is one huge disappointing thing about this episode.
Yeah.
And it's basically that we've seen this episode before.
We have.
So, whilst I do quite like this episode, there is that cloud of disappointment that hangs over it, because a lot of the plot, not necessarily the individual jokes, but a lot of the plot is very recycled. The original episode being Leaping Lizards in season 3. If you cast your mind back to when Frasier was having a prank war with Bulldog on the air, and then Kate, the station manager at the time, gets caught up in it, and it's all just a bit of a mess. Here we've got 2 new radio personalities at KCL. You've got Carlos and the Chicken, and they're running like I guess I don't know if it's specifically like a prank show.
It's just like the kind of comedy morning show, drive time, whatever, you know.
So the 2 of them they pick Frasier as one of their first targets. They call him up, supposedly with a sculptor from Germany who's going to carve his likeness for the Hall of Thinkers award or something. Great psychiatric minds in history, or whatever it is. And just get all these silly lines out of him, and eventually acknowledge that he has an enormous ass, and use that as their soundbite for the the rest of the day. And that kind of escalates a couple of times because Frasier just cannot learn to let go. Roz says it as much, like, do not let them know that they've gotten to you, because if you do, they will not stop. And that's exactly what happened with Bulldog as well. He let him know how much it bothered him, so Bulldog obviously makes it much worse. Much as Carlos and the Chicken make it much worse. They pretend to be the superintendent from downstairs, and basically convince Frasier to hop around the bathroom singing. It's how someone falls for that after having been pranked a day before is unbelievable. But anyway, don't victim blame the prank victims.
The prankies.
The prankies, and it leads to this great conclusion where Frasier has announced to everyone that he's going to get his own back on them. He's going to confront them and, you know, let it be known how much they've hurt him, and he's going to do that by delivering a speech to them on air. It's like, Martin kind of says, like, you're wanting to make this better, right? Because that's not the way to do it. They're attacking you because you're an uptight, you know, nerd, and by going in there with a speech, you're just going to make it worse. So obviously Frasier knows better than anyone else, and he's kind of encouraged by the fact that they're now playing an edited sex tape of Frasier and Roz, which I think's a bit far.
I definitely think that's a bit far. They have the competition as well of trying to get photos of Frasier's behind. And then they start doing it with Roz as well. And I like, obviously, if it's inappropriate for one gender, then it's inappropriate for everyone else as well. I don't mean to say that it's fine if it's a man that's getting this harassment and it's not fine if it's a woman, but it's I think it is especially inappropriate being Roz, who's not involved. She's not on-air talent. She's just a random woman that they work with and have at this point not interacted with. And they're trying to get their fans to harass her, take pictures of her arse, and send them in for a cash prize. That's really, really bad. That's horrible.
It is pretty inappropriate. I do like the joke though when they say that when Roz says that there's a competition for her as well as Frasier, and Frasier says, "Oh no, they're offering $1,000 for a picture of your butt as well." She says, "No, it's $50 in a 6-pack." And there were 6 winners before I even left the house. I think that's really funny.
It's so sad.
It is, and it's cruel, but it's. I love how like resigned she is to the fact that people have already got these photos of her, and she's kind of just like, oh man. I don't know. It is harsh and it is cruel and it is like probably illegal. But there's, I don't know, there's something just juvenile and humorous about it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of how you have to treat it to enjoy the episode. We have, of course, the conclusion where Frasier marches in there with his speech and he inadvertently kicks off an argument between Carlos and the chicken. Yeah. Who's the main one and who's that other one? Yeah. Or what he says,
you get the one, you get that other one.
Yeah, I mean, the straight man and his sidekick.
Yeah.
I think he says. And kicks off this argument between them, resulting in them just breaking down and leaving.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of it's similar to like Dr. Nora. I'm thinking of episodes we've seen recently. But yeah, Dr. Nora, where he wants to resolve things like amicably almost.
Yeah.
And it just goes sideways for him and it winds up
just ruining their lives and getting what he wants anyway.
Yeah. So I do quite like that. So some of the pranks they pull are a bit obnoxious and yes, arguably illegal. And it's definitely reminiscent of a lot of the, like prank YouTubers that we see these days.
Yeah. Who
are just like, it goes beyond like a prank and it's just harassing people for content.
Yeah.
So part of me kind of not sympathizes with them, but like when I see that parallel, I'm like, oh, this is just there's always going to be someone, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's always going to happen. You're always going to have those people who take it too far. And I kind of, I don't know, I just have a soft spot for just like switching off and watching not prank shows, but episodes about like prank shows. I just find them kind of entertaining. And Frasier gets bullied, which objectively not great, but I love to see it.
One of the things I like about this episode, and to be honest, it's one of the only things I like about this episode. I'm not big on it, but one of the things I like, and it kind of carries on from an episode all the way back in season 2, Seat of Power, where we meet the Creasels and we talk about Frasier and Niles' history of getting bullied, and we explore the idea of like them bringing it on themselves by here we talk about them running around the neighborhood playing the Avengers.
Yeah. The original 1960s
Avengers.
TV show, not the
Marvel thing.
Iron Man, whatever his name is.
The real Avengers, as our dad always calls it. And they've got umbrellas and bowler hats and they were running around, and of course that got them teased. People were made fun of them for that. And Martin kind of points out, like, you've brought it on yourself by doing this. And then when Frasier, he's going back and forth on whether he's going to go and read this speech. And in the end, when he barges in to do it, he says to Roz, like, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like you. There's always going to be someone that picks on you for something. The only way that you let them win is if you let them change who you are. And I really like that message. I totally agree with that. It's something that people have talked about for a long time, is like, are you really, do you as a victim of bullying, or someone in general as a victim of bullying, do they have a share of the blame if they're going around being weird publicly and, and it's like, no, they're not hurting anyone by running around the neighborhood in bowler hats or by going to school with patches on their blazers and carrying their gym shorts in an attaché case or whatever. They're not hurting anyone. It's totally unfair for bullies to pick on them regardless of how weird they're being. And I like the attitude that Frasier has here, where he's saying, like, the only way that the bullies win is if you let them change who you are.
It is a good message. I don't disagree. But I think there has to be a level of accountability, right? And I think, not to victim blame people here, but you've got bullies are going to bully.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's very rare that you're going to be able to change everyone in the world to never bully anyone ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I don't think it's strictly that, you know, you shouldn't be running around in a bowler hat and whatever, dressing up as your favorite character and going out in public. It's not that. It's more like knowing when it's appropriate to go out and have fun and when it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So people who go to school dressed up in cosplay and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, no, what you're doing is inappropriate and out of the norm.
Yeah.
You know?
But what's wrong with that?
Well, objectively,
what makes it inappropriate?
Objectively, nothing, really.
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone is going to see it that way.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, though. The only issue with them doing it, you know, someone going into school wearing cat ears or whatever, the only issue with that is that bullies are going to see that, they're not going to like it, and they're going to pick on you for it.
But
that's their problem. That's them that are in the wrong.
Yeah, yes. But it's this lack of, like, accountability and realizing that you know, because bullies are not going to change, you know that if you walk into school wearing cat ears, let's use that example, that you're going to get bullied, and you do it anyway.
Yeah.
There is partly your fault.
I disagree.
If you know something bad is going to happen to you if you do something specific and you do it anyway, you can't be like, why are they doing this to me? It's kind of like, well, if you didn't do that, it wouldn't happen. Like, do you see what I mean? And I
see what you mean.
I think, like, completely level playing field, you're totally right. If every single bully just stopped bullying people, that would be great, right? But that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to have those people who are awful, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of understanding that there are always going to be awful people in the world, and unfortunately, you cannot always do what you want. And it's these people who are like, I'm going to do what I want anyway, and then complain when something bad happens, that you're kind of like, but you knew something bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
So why did you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
this is a very, I'm talking very specifically here about things like bullies in school and, you know, someone dressing up in weird clothes, right? Yeah. That's a very secluded example. I'm not letting my opinion of this bleed into other situations where blaming victims is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Right? If you see what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is my opinion on this very specific matter.
Yeah.
Not other things. But I think it especially when it's like kids and teenagers, it's very difficult to change someone's mind if they're a bully or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And the likelihood is they're not going to change at all. If they are, it's going to be when they hit adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you knowing that they're going to do something wrong if you dress up in a bowler hat and then doing it anyway, you can't say it's entirely their fault.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we just differ in opinion on that.
I think we do. Like, it's clearly a very complicated issue.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's one that is in the past for both of us. Or, I mean, mostly at least. Yeah,
I don't wear my cat ears nearly as often these days.
Yeah. Only when you're doing charity streams. Oh, you didn't have cat ears,
I didn't have cat ears.
No.
I had a nice little bonnet.
A nice little maid outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so overall, we'll go to the ratings then.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 2.
A 2?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I'm really not big on it. I don't think it's especially funny. I think like you say, it is basically just like a redoing of Leaping Lizards, except we've not got. I think like just the pranks aren't as funny, and like Carlos and the Chicken aren't as funny as Bulldog.
No,
and
they're not.
Bulldog is at least upfront about it. Like, oh, I'm just making these jokes. they're not nearly as like humiliating. They don't go into the field of like harassing Frasier or Roz. It's just kind of poking fun at Frasier and quite subtle jokes. I mean, not especially subtle, but you know. And then Carlos and the chicken, I think, are really two-faced, which I hate. Because they do the one prank, and then when Frasier comes up to them and says, like, okay, it's your first day, I'm willing to laugh off this joke that you've made, but, like, you've done it once, that's it. And then they say, like, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't want to step on your toes, we're big fans, we were just, you know, it fell out of line when we did it, we didn't want to, whatever. And then Frasier goes away, and then the next day, they do it again.
But then that's the joke. The joke is that they're not big fans. They don't care about him at all.
Yeah,
and
that's terrible.
But Roz told him not to go up. Do not let them know that you've gotten to them. And he does it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is that they've now identified him as a target.
Yeah.
They're
arseholes. They're bullies.
They
I
are.
don't like them.
They absolutely are.
Like,
but
that's one of the things I don't like about it, is that like Bulldog isn't that bad when he's making jokes at Frasier's expense. It's not. It doesn't feel as personal. It doesn't feel as smarmy and two-faced. It's just sort of him making jokes like he always does.
Yeah, but then the jokes that he always makes are like borderline.
Oh, well, he does make some inappropriate jokes.
Yeah, like. No, I don't know. I quite like the episode. I think it's pretty funny. I gave it a 4. I quite like it. I think watching Frasier get bullied is hilarious. I'm not keen on the joke they play against Roz.
Yeah,
I think that's a step too far. But the fact that they get their comeuppance in the end because they're just so like unstable. They don't know what their place is in the relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny. They don't know who's the funny one.
Yeah.
And who isn't. And I don't know, I like that they have that stupid argument and that's what breaks them apart. I like Niles' crepe pan jokes as well.
The joke about the crepe pan is funny.
What is it? He says, what is it? Pots in
saucepans in summer, crepe pans in fall. When winter's upon us, there's food for us all.
Yeah. I like that.
That is quite funny. And then they start talking about, Frasier says, like, I don't season my crepe pans. And then Niles is the only one that seasons his crepe pans. And Niles says, well, that's exactly why I have had the same set since I was in the 7th grade. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I've never seasoned my crepe pan. I don't even know if I have a crepe pan.
I have a crepe pan, but it's very new, so I've never had to.
Well, better start thinking about seasoning it next autumn.
That's true.
Okay, everyone's a critic, including us.
Yeah.
Going through this show.
We are critics.
Yeah. Not professional ones by any means, though.
No. God, no.
So we've got a new recurring character. Poppy Delafield? Delafield.
Yeah.
The daughter of the station owner, sorry. Who is a character.
Yep.
Bit of a loudmouth, doesn't really shut up ever. A wee bit dim, not the brightest bulb, and not very self-aware either.
Yeah.
There's kind of an innocence to her though that I find quite funny. I don't think I would if she was real and I was in her path, but watching her, I think she's played really funny.
Yeah.
Is it Katie Finnerty? Katie something? Finnerman?
Something?
Who plays her. I think she does a very good job of playing this very shrill, innocent sort of idiot, basically. Yeah. I think. And she... What does she do again?
She shows up and is kind of interning around because she's trying to find a job.
She's
one of her mother's various radio stations and TV stations and whatever.
And alongside this, we've got Niles, who's just started a new job as a critic for one of the local newspapers, the Monocle.
Yeah.
As an arts and culture critic, so he's getting all the tickets for the shows and the art galleries and everything, which obviously makes Frasier insanely jealous, as he does, because he's definitely not a grown man who can't handle the fact that his brother is doing well in life.
Yeah.
He's such a child, man. Yeah. Honestly, it's
like they do make the point that they're both as bad as each other in a way, because Niles is really flaunting it. He's trying to make Frasier jealous.
Yes.
And Frasier really should just be rising above it, but he doesn't.
Yeah, of course he doesn't. He sees the opportunity that he can use Poppy to start a new show, his own arts and culture show on the radio, and do his own critiques and things like that. Unfortunately, it backfires, and because Poppy is as dim as she is, she thinks the show is hers.
Yeah.
And takes over, and does not do a very good job.
No.
Because she's a bit dim. She's not able to properly critique anything, really. She reads out the essay that she's written about a streetcar named Desire.
Yeah.
And it's written like something I would write in like first year of high school.
Yeah.
It's like, I liked this play because it was great.
Yeah.
The character of blah was interesting because they had a background in blah. And it's like, it's all very,
Yeah, not very well written. The joke about how she has a personal connection to the play because it was made into a film with Marlon Brando, whom she once sat next to on the Concorde.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really funny. No, it's a pretty decent episode. No, you disagree?
I don't like it.
You don't like it at all?
I don't enjoy this episode.
I think it has its moments. I think Niles doing his reviews is quite fun. I like how excited he gets about doing his reviews, despite Frasier trying to sort of crush that joy. I quite like just how excitable Niles is and how like sort of honored he is to be in that position to give his opinion around Seattle, even if he does get fired in the end for giving a bad review to his partner's electrolysis. Sorry. Who, if anyone doesn't know, I did have to Google this, is the person that removes body hair.
Yeah.
Like a beautician. And what is the joke he says? It's, if you've ever seen Olga in a sundress, you'll forgive her as I've forgiven her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, poor Olga.
Poor Olga, yeah. So I don't know, I like Niles in this episode. I think it's kind of nice to see him happy for once. And I like Poppy. I think she's a great character. As annoying and irritating as she is, I do quite like her. Just the way she's played is just total nightmare to be around. So I gave it a 3. I gave it 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
How did you rank it?
I give it a 1.
Only a 1?
I really don't like watching this episode. I find Poppy really, really annoying. I find it the plot between Frasier and Niles really annoying. I don't think there's really much that's that funny beyond the 1 or 2 good jokes.
No.
Overall, I just don't enjoy it. I don't think it's a good episode.
I like Daphne's treatment of Poppy. I think that's really good.
She is funny, yeah.
They go around Daphne to listen to some Beethoven when Frasier's trying to convince Poppy to start the show, and Daphne's just sitting there, obviously like baffled as to why this insane woman is in her house. And she's just given this look the whole time of like complete disbelief that it's a real person she's speaking to. I love it. and then comes back, and when Fraser's trying to convince her, she hands over the patty. And it's like, now it's very rich, so don't lay it on too thick.
Yeah.
I think it's little things like that that's kind of the way they treat Poppy is really funny because she's just so oblivious to what's going on around her.
Yeah.
I don't know. When Martin closes the door in her face.
I did find that. That is funny.
I don't know, man. I think it's just kind of sweet. And I just like how innocent she is and just, oblivious to everything that's going on. There's something quite, like, charming about that. Ah, well. Everyone's a critic, but not everyone is a fan.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
The next episode, I hope you've given a bit of a better ranking.
I have.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I've not given it a 1.
Okay. The dog that rocks the cradle, and the dog that we spoke, the aforementioned dog, is Bulldog.
Bulldog,
who has returned from the grave.
From the grave.
Not the grave, right? Like from the writer's room grave.
Yeah.
After being
grave.
after being fired at the end of season 6, he has returned as a pizza delivery man.
Yeah,
he is not doing the best, struggling to stay on his feet, which I think is really sad. Honestly,
yeah,
it's quite upsetting to see him like that because he's obviously quite aware of his situation and knows that he's not doing great, and I don't he's a tough guy. He doesn't come off as too ashamed in front of like Frasier. He comes to deliver pizza and Roz, but you can see that he is he is aware and he knows what people are going to think of him and everything.
Yeah.
At the same time as this, Roz is looking for a new nanny. She's struggling to find a new nanny, and after she sees how kind Bulldog is, like Alice comes running through, and Bulldog picks her up and is very kind and loving towards her. She decides to give him a shot in the role of nanny, and to his credit, does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
he is very sweet with Alice. He's able to take care of her. He's able to look after her. Unfortunately, he is also the jealous type.
Yeah.
And cannot bear the thought of Roz going out on a date with other people, and gradually scares away all of her dates. Yeah. We get some good scenes with that.
I think so, yeah. There are some good jokes with threatening the guy shows up to Roz's apartment, threatening the guy that she agrees to go out with that they used to work with in the coffee shop. Yeah. It's kind of trying to intimidate them.
It's the way he stands back up and he's like, "Oh yeah, what are you going to do about it?" And Bulldog like snaps his own finger, dislocates his finger. He's like, "If I'm willing to do that to me, think what I'm willing to do to you."
Yeah.
I love how intimidating that actually is. But Dan Butler's really great in this. I think he's easily the highlight.
Solid Bulldog
in
this one.
You get what's really lovely is we get classic Bulldog. We get the sort of obnoxious side, him scaring away the dates and being Bulldog, but we also get this kind of vulnerability as well. At the start, initially, when he sees Frasier and Roz for the first time in presumably a while, as the pizza delivery man, but then at the end, after Roz catches him in the act of scaring away one of his dates, he confesses his love for her.
Yeah.
And it's really quite heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because he clearly does mean what he says. And the way that that's portrayed, the way Dan Butler gives this performance, and the way that Roz and Peri Gilpin return it as well, is really... it's intense. Because he kind of confesses his feelings, and Roz doesn't feel the same way, so figures the easiest way to let him down is to pretend like she knows that he's joking.
Yeah.
And and get him to go along with that joke as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of heartbreaking. I don't know.
It is very sad, and the way that she says like, oh, you're just at it again, trying to get me into bed, and give it up, Bulldog. And like you can see when she's saying that, and like the look on his face, and he just kind of decides to just pretend that he was just trying to sleep with her, and then when he leaves, the thing I always think about as being quite sad is when Bulldog's leaving and Roz says goodbye, Bob. And I think this is probably the only time she calls him Bob and not Bulldog. And it's so, it's personal and it's sweet and it's very sad at the same time,
I think Roz and Bulldog could have ended up together.
It's not impossible.
As much as Roz and Niles, I would have loved to see.
Yeah.
I think Roz and Bulldog, they could have had something there. I think if Bulldog had continued sort of a bit of a redemption path.
Yeah.
The way that he treats Alice is so sweet. And the way that he clearly does have feelings for Roz. I don't know. It's a really good episode though.
Mm-hmm.
We get a really strong performance from everyone, mainly Dan Butler and Perry Gilpin, I think, though.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is sad, but we get such a good performance out of everyone that it's still an enjoyable episode to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it. The worst part about it is that this is the last time we see Bulldog for quite some time.
Yeah, it's not until season 9 maybe?
Yeah, if not 10, maybe.
Good bit.
Yeah.
Oh well.
What? How do you rank it? How do you feel about this episode?
So I give it a 3.
Okay.
I give it a 3, and it's mostly because there's a big B plot here that we've not even mentioned because it's kind of just like a big nothing B plot about Martin making funeral arrangement.
Oh, this is the great one. I always forget about it. It's such a forgettable plot.
It is.
Plot.
You stupid. We went to a funeral, the funeral of his friend Stan Wojciechowski.
Say that 3 times fast.
No. And at that point they start talking about like, well, he's not got any funeral plans, and Niles is commiserating he's lost his very exclusive plot at some fancy cemetery,
Verdant Springs or something.
Springs. And yeah, and it's just sort of nothing. Like there's nothing all that interesting.
It's a big old nothing burger.
Martin goes and buys a plot, and then that's it. They all go to the cemetery and look at the plot, and it's next to the maintenance shed. All right, cool.
And then Martin's bought one for Frasier Niles as well, presumably that they won't use because they've got one elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep. And that really brings it down because it's like we're taking half of the episode off.
That's true. Yeah.
For this, and it's not interesting, and otherwise I probably would have given it a 4 because I think it is a strong episode. I like the Bulldog Roz bits.
I did give it a 4.
Yeah.
I did ignore the funeral plot, the B plot. I'm trying to think of a joke there.
The plot.
The plot plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ignore it because it's just nothing. But then, you're right. I don't think I could never have given it a full 5, even if the Roz Bulldog stuff was like absolutely flawless.
Yeah. Because
they've left this just load of nothing off to the side. It does bring the episode down a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, it's good, and as I say, it's so sad that we don't get more Bulldog. I love Bulldog. He's such a good character.
Yeah.
And I think we deserve more of him. And more of Roz.
Yeah.
To be honest, just more of them being together. I've decided I want it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've settled on.
But I don't know. After watching this episode, yes, because it's just, I think they could have had a future together, and been a family, given the chance. But we'll never know, will we?
Yeah, guess not.
We'll never know. On to the final episode of the disc. We have rivals. The rivals in this story being Frasier and Niles, I guess.
Yeah, who else?
Yeah, I guess. We've had so many episodes, just this disc.
Sibling rivalry episodes that really aren't very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind this episode. We've got the return of Poppy. The yes, excitable. How would you describe her? One word. How would you describe her? I'm thinking of it like a noun.
Annoying.
That's not a noun.
Oh, you wanted me to say a noun. I thought you were just thinking of a noun.
Well, I'm trying to, but like, there must be like a way that encapsulates that type of person. No?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Great.
There's your word.
Great. Wonderful. That's such important input. Thank you so much.
Oh, God.
Yeah, okay, right.
It's so hot in here.
Yeah. Right. Poppy, the annoying one, returns.
Yeah.
And she meets Niles for the first time. She's quite taken with Niles. A bizarre pairing, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I think is quite sweet. I kind of like how Frasier is. The joke is that he's constantly irritated by Poppy. She's still around the station, and still got her show, her arts and culture show. God knows how, but whatever. And because he keeps moaning about her to Niles, Niles kind of assumes that he has feelings for her.
Yeah.
And then when he finally meets her, she's quite taken by him and quite charming, and they actually flirt quite a bit, and they get on really well. So he's kind of like, well, this isn't the same person that Frasier's always banging on about. It can't be, because she's lovely. And that leads them to, they don't start dating, but they get tickets to the finale of the plot.
Yeah.
To the third act. There's a big ball that Roz is selling tickets to.
Yeah.
And before we get to that, we have Frasier, who has met one of the new neighbors called Regan, who shows up to the apartment in a towel after Martin found her wandering the halls, being locked out of her apartment, which is there's something it like rides the line of creepy and hilarious that Martin was just like, I don't know, scoping the halls for,
I guess,
someone. I don't know, like, how did that situation occur? But I think it's really funny and kind of cute that Martin is so polite to offer, like, to bring her in, but underhandedly wants to set up her and Frasier. Yeah. And also kind of, she's in a towel, he sneaks a peek for himself as well. It's I don't know, a dirty old man. Yeah. But it's kind of funny. And Frasier, is quite taken with her. However, when Niles shows up, there's a little bit of confusion because she is one of Niles' patients. And this leads to this. I tried to write down how you describe this, and I came up with love square because there's 4 of them.
It's a love square.
It's not quite a love triangle. So love square is what I've got. And basically you've got Frasier, who wants Regan but thinks that Niles wants her because they have this mysterious past together. They know each other from before, but he doesn't know how. And then you've got Niles, who wants Poppy but thinks that Frasier wants Poppy. Yeah. And it just leads to madness. And why could they not just talk? Yeah. And listen to each other? They say several times honestly, like, Niles says, I'm interested in Poppy, and Frasier doesn't believe him. And Frasier says, I'm interested in Regan, and Niles doesn't believe him.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying. It's like, you guys could all be happy.
Yeah.
Just listen to one another. And yeah, we have this final set piece at this big fancy ball, which looks very similar to the set of Moondance.
It does.
The snowball.
I don't know if it is the same. It might be.
I mean, it would have to be rebuilt. It's presumably a stage rather than like a location, but it does look very similar.
It does look about the same.
And it's they're just the whole time they're all up against each other, and it's so awkward and horrible to watch. But there's also this level of like hilarity at how idiotic they're both being. Especially when it ends with the two women fed up with their partners bickering, deciding to leave, and Frasier and Niles having a drink together and toasting the woman they both want. And then they both toast different names.
They say different names and they realise how stupid they are.
I would love to have a follow-up to this episode where Niles and Poppy did start dating, and Frasier and Regan did start dating, and they just kind of cleared up the confusion. They don't have that, and I find that really disappointing.
It is. This is the last time we see Poppy.
Yeah.
It's only in 2 episodes.
Which is annoying, to be honest.
It is a little annoying.
I would have liked to have seen more of her.
Yeah.
Especially given how taken Niles was with her.
Yeah, and she seemed to have a good time. Like, even at the when Frasier and Niles are both being really weird with each other and Regan's getting very irritated and she's going to leave, Poppy still says that, like, she's just having a wonderful time. She's just enjoying spending time with Niles. And it's like, it doesn't really make any sense that she wouldn't at least kind of follow up with him. And especially if she's working with Frasier.
Don't know where she's gone. She had enough. Just wanted to fade out of existence.
Yeah.
All of the awkwardness and cringe from the dance. Just
boy. So stupid.
But it's another episode that Niles kind of stands out to me. Just the fact that he is quite happy, I guess. He's kind of got something new in his life that's giving him a wee bit of purpose. Because I feel like we kind of lost that with Niles a lot. You know, after all his divorce and everything, he's been so depressed and upset. And there's definitely this level of pity towards him.
Yeah.
And with Daphne and Donnie getting engaged as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of have this pity towards him. So whenever I see something that makes him a bit happy, I'm like, oh, that's nice. I like watching it. I don't know. And maybe that's not a good way to judge an episode, but I don't know.
Yeah. This is the only time that we really see him kind of, I guess, dating casually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a shame that we don't see a little bit more of that.
Even if one of them's an escort and one of them gives up on him very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh well. Poppy and Regan are both great. Nice guest stars. Regan is played by someone.
Yep, she sure is.
I can't remember the name.
Gigi something. I can't remember her surname.
Yes, that's so bad. Gigi Rogers, maybe? No. Hold on, bear with me. I'm sure I've got it up here somewhere. Hold on.
Gigi Rice.
Gigi Rice. I knew it began with an R.
Yeah.
Gorgeous lady. Yeah. Very, very attractive. But also just a fantastic actor as well.
Yeah.
I think she makes a real impact as this sort of lovable neighbor character. And we do see more of her throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah.
This series, not the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. It rounds off the disc.
Yeah,
Not-
it does round off the disc.
Not in the best way possible, but
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm not big on this one.
No.
either, to be honest, this is another. This disc isn't great for me. It's not a great start for season 7. I think season 7 is pretty good.
not the first disc.
Not the first disc.
Yeah, you've been quite harsh on these episodes. I have to say.
I like Mamma Mia. I think the others are kind of mediocre at best, to be honest. I mean, Rivals, I gave a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's a bit lower than I would give it. I think it's not great, but I think there's enough salvageable plot in it.
Yeah.
To make it a half decent episode. Especially when you've got such great guest stars, and then you've got this sort of farce at the side. As awkward and annoying as it is, you're screaming at the screen saying like, just talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's still entertaining to watch. So yeah, I give it a 3.
Yeah.
I give it slightly higher ranking.
Fair enough.
And that is the end of the first disc of
it.
season 7.
Yeah.
Hopefully your rankings will get a little bit higher from here on in. Otherwise, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I will say that, I think the next disc I'm going to be giving a lot higher. There's some great episodes.
The next disc has some really good episodes. Yeah.
The thing I really noticed watching this first disc season 7 is that the end of season 6 has a few episodes, thinking maybe like IQ, Dr. Nora, both fairly strong episodes. I mean, I think I gave IQ a pretty high rating. I think you could quite easily lift them and put them into the earlier seasons. You could probably have the plot of IQ could be in season 2, and it would fit just fine.
Yeah,
but the vibe is so different. Season 7, it's so different. The introduction of Poppy as a character, she just feels so different from the other guest characters that we've had. I don't even know if I can describe it really. The tone feels so completely different.
I don't disagree with that. I think there's definitely a level of... Now, it sounds weird, right? I think there's a level of maturity in the way that the episodes are written, but not the content of the episodes.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I think they're becoming a lot more... not structured, they're becoming a lot more sitcom-y. Which in a lot of cases is unfortunate, because what made Frasier stand out is the fact that it was so unique.
Yeah.
So when we get to season 7, I think there are quite a few episodes that do feel very formulaic, and in the case of Radio Wars, almost repetitive, just rehashing old stories that we've already seen. But if you're looking at the actual content of the episodes, the way that characters behave isn't as mature. It's almost more comedic.
Yeah.
It's not slapstick. It's not that level, but it is a bit more silly in places and a bit more over the top. Whereas if you look back at season 1 and 2, Frasier and Niles at least are always played very straight.
Yeah. And
a lot of the humor comes from how straight they are played.
Yeah.
So there's definitely, you compare the two, say season 7 and season 1, there's this huge difference in how characters behave and how the plot turns out. Yeah. It is difficult to describe though.
Yeah.
In terms of the feeling you get watching the episode, how that vibe has changed.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree. I feel it too. There you go. There we go. any highlights from this disc? From this very low-ranked disc?
I don't know what I could give it to be honest. There's a There's a line in Momma Mia I think is quite funny when Niles is complaining about the insects and says that he was once chased off the edge of the dock by a mosquito the size of a pelican. Yeah. And just his exaggerations about how bad the insects are very funny. Talks about how there was a moth that he thought was a bat because of it emitted a high-pitched shriek. And then as Frasier points out that was actually just Niles that was shrieking.
Yeah.
Probably those. I think that's probably my favourite bit of the disc, to be honest.
Okay. I'm kind of struggling to think of one. There's a couple I can think of, right? And I'm going to go with one that just makes me laugh. When Frasier's trying to convince Poppy to start a show, they go round, and as we said, they're sitting back listening to Beethoven, and when the scene starts, the song's just ending, and Frasier's kind of very pretentious about it all, and it's like, oh, it's just wonderful, isn't it? And Poppy's obviously a lot more uncultured, I guess, and just kind of enjoying the music. It's just like, wow. And you know what makes it even better? He was deaf. And it's just the way she like screeches the fact that is really funny. And it's just silly, but it always makes me giggle. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that as my highlight for this disc.
I think that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Starting off season 7. And we've only got better episodes to come.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for hopefully taking on board our little message at the start. We appreciate your listenership more than we can possibly explain.
Yeah.
We love the fact that people seem to be very receptive to the show and enjoy it, and you engage with us on Twitter and Instagram and everything. So long may that continue, I hope. But yeah, everyone have a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.